Welcome back to the Juice. Bang. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Spike Lemonade Pod, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube. We'd love to see those subscriber count go up. Right now, I looked into the logistics of it. 40% of listeners are subscribers. 60% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel. Like, what? But you listen to all of us. You listen to them. So why don't you just press that button, ring the bell.
Thanks for tuning in, and please enjoy today's episode.
Tell me who you know.
This is not going to go over well, bro, to any overseas listeners.
Just might see us at Worlds. Maybe.
Dude,
If not us, who?
right? I know they definitely need observers.
Like dried raisins.
See, I'm not a big raisin guy. I don't even know the slightest thing about raisins. So
Kyle Keenan. Keenan is key.
Gabe Finaki is going to be playing with.
They're like witches brewing up these perfect balls.
Connors, you're next.
Yeah.
For me, I decided it was the right thing to do, and then ultimately went to Salt Lake City and kicked his ass.
that's embarrassing.
Yeah, what are you playing naked?
Clapwick is a handsome dude, and he's tall. Good-looking dude. I definitely would go more 7.
I think if there's anything I've learned from this past week, it's that if you make a lot of noise and get a lot of attention, it doesn't matter if you're doing a good job, but like you will get the attention.
I know a lot of the things that I say might be viewed as controversial.
It was a bit of a bitch-ass move.
Are you serious?
That's so good.
You're listening to Spiked Lemonade, the only Roundnet podcast that squeezes out all the juice in the Roundnet community right now. I'm your host, Matt Spilark, alongside
Josh DiDonato here tonight with two awesome guests. We've been looking forward to this one for a little while now after our awesome time at ASL a few weeks ago. Guys, could you please, the floor is yours, give us a little intro. Most people know who you are, but for those who don't, give us a little intro and what you have as your involvement in ASL and your baby, the Pro League.
Go.
My name's Caleb from Boise, Idaho. Me and Alex work tirelessly to try to make that event awesome, as well as our squad events. That's kind of what we do is squad events. And I help a lot on the creative end. So a lot of the content you guys will see on Instagram, a lot of the videos you'll see has kind of come from me. But I'm also the backboard for all of Alex's crazy ideas. So we just sit and talk for hours and hours and hours and try to get the right ideas out.
And I'm Alex Hart from Idaho Falls, Idaho, and I'm a dad and an athlete and a sports enthusiast. And so my job with the ASL has been to create Roundnet as my children's primary sport. And as we've gone through the last 3.5 years together with Caleb and our partnership and our friendship, that's been our goal and objective the whole time. And as we launch these other projects, it's all designed to grow Roundnet from the top to the bottom. So we're excited about that.
Absolutely. As you guys, so most people know the story, but for those who don't, when the ASL, the squad, the larger tournament environment idea was born, how did you guys know that one another was the right partner or the right partner in crime to pull this off?
That's a great question. So in regards to our company, which is the American Spikers League, 4 years, I think it's 4 years, Caleb, 4 years ago, Caleb wanted to launch Idaho Roundnet community. And I just got involved in the competitive scene and I wanted to coach Roundnet. I just wanted it to be, there was nothing. So we hit it off in this office. He came and visited me. And in that day, the very first day we met, we actually created the squad format. That no, squads have been around for a long time. I'm not saying that we created squads. The version that we play today was created in a way that we could design so we could coach. We could put players with players and we could have a series of rounds. So what you see today in the ASL, and it's changed a lot since then. But that's when we knew, and Caleb's and I's our personalities just meshed well together, and our different angles and different experiences, and my business experience and his Roundnet experience met together, and there we have it.
We have very different personalities, as many people know, but I think they complement each other well. Alex is generally the big vision guy with all the crazy ideas, and I generally say no to half of them. And get it right. So
agreed.
I love it.
So let's talk about ASL a little bit more. Let's specifically talk about ASL this past year. Let's give a little recap, a little overview of how you guys think the tourney went. Obviously, you had big plans coming into it. Let's start off with what went well throughout the whole weekend, throughout your planning, your whole year of setup. Would you guys come out of the weekend saying, wow, I loved how this went, loved how that went?
Well, one, super exciting. It was one of the largest tournaments of all time. We're not sure if it's the biggest, but it definitely was huge. We had over 700 players playing at one time throughout the day. So that was a huge success. I think last year we had around 600. So we grew in that way. So yeah, so a little less than that. But that was, so in that regard, we were super jazzed about that. We were really jazzed that our software ended up working after a little bit. We had some errors at the beginning, but that interaction with the software made our lives, Alex and I's lives, we actually were able to play this year a little bit, not totally, but so I'd say those two things: the number, the size of the venue, and then the software really made it for me.
And I'd add on that every year, Kaleb and I sit here in this office and we brainstorm. Well, first we receive criticism and suggestions on how to improve the year before. And in Vegas, anybody came to Vegas, you know that it was cool because it was debuted as the pioneered first of its kind, and we made a lot of mistakes, a lot. In fact, shocked that people came back. But we learned, and we received a ton of criticism and valid criticism, and we like to hear it. We like it, and so we brainstorm how to make it better. We try to emulate companies that innovate and try to create new innovation, and that's one thing we wanted to bring to the sport. And Kaleb and I talk about all the time. Let's bring Roundnet tournaments together, but let's also innovate at the same time. And so whenever you come to an ASL event, it should be different than the one before in some way. And so I think we succeeded at that. We tried some things, we failed at some things. I think the finals, the premier finals, the women's finals, and the Kenner finals, obviously getting to an overtime and then doing that, and then having our commentators, Jonah and Josh, doing that on the live stream for those that weren't there. I mean, it was electric there. I'm sure it was electric online. It was. What we've heard from people is that was the best Roundnet experience I ever had as a spectator. But what someone told me was that was more fun than watching real professional sports. I had more fun watching that than I did this basketball game or this football game. I think the comment was the Super Bowl. This was more fun than this year's Super Bowl.
Yeah, that wasn't all that crazy.
That's true.
But I respect the take.
So what was the innovation coming into 2025? You said each ASL shouldn't be like the last. There should be something different. What was the main goal, the main innovation coming into 2025 that you really wanted to break through?
Yeah, there's a handful, but one of them was we really wanted to create this environment. We wanted to try overtime, and that was a success in some regards, and not a success in other regards. We really wanted to try that. We just felt like that's what professional sports have, and just from a spectator fan, we wanted to create that for a player and also for a fan to watch and experience. And then the second thing is we created a lot more. We created smaller brackets. You know, some people give us criticism for that, and it's warranted. It's okay. But Kaleb and I decided to take our money, our profit, and we decided to give it away to these other brackets that come into the tournament. So if you get, we don't know where you're at, your squad. The squads are hard, right? We don't know where you're at skill-wise. No one does. And so you go to day one, we put you in this giant division of premier 36 or 50 contender or 14 or 15 women. We don't know. And so after day one, we put you to everybody and we just find out. And then day two, we figured this is how we justify. We say, this is where you should have been if we had known. So let's create your own podium and let's create your own prize pot. And so it's not huge, but it was something. And we wanted to do that as a way for people to wake up on day two, spend all this money and time going to this 2-day tournament and say, hey, day one was not as what we wanted, but day two is a fresh start. So that was another great innovation, plus the software.
Just to add, I really like the trophies. I think, how many trophies did we print, Alex?
I printed 500 pieces, 290 trophies, I think, or almost 200 trophies.
There's a lot of people who walked away with, I remember going to like STS events and be like, oh man, I wish I could get one of those medals, and But there's a lot of people, regardless of where their skill level was at, they were the best in their group. And so a lot of people walked away saying, I did this, which is really cool as well.
Okay. What do you guys think from this year didn't go well? What were like one or two things you could highlight where you said like that I had a vision for this to happen and either it didn't happen the way I wanted it to or it didn't happen at all and we kind of had to just keep it pushing?
I'll go first. I think probably the greatest regret is we for Premier we had 36 squads, easy. For a Contender we had 50 squads, not as great, but still a great number. For Women's we had 15 squads. There's not a win situation in that scenario. You either do 5 squads of 3 or 3 squads of 5. Where you don't get to play a lot of people and you have a really short day one. So are you getting your money's worth? Or you have the 8-7. So the 8 pool is going to be playing for a really long time. And that's exactly what happened. So just that was the regret there. If we could have brought another team or maybe capped it at 14 and kicked one of the teams out, I think that probably would have made a better experience for a lot of people. And especially the women, right? For a lot of the women that came, this is their first big event ever. And some started their pool play around 10 and ended at like 7. So it's a long day for that 8 pool team.
Well, and I'll just add on to that too. We just don't know. I mean, sometimes there are squads who've done this 3 years in a row are very efficient and they know what they're doing. And then there's always the constant new squads or new players that this is new for. The software did in some instances speed it up and other instances it did not. And because of the thing, we just don't know. And this is unfortunate. And next year we should have a clock embedded in the software that should speed some of these transitions. But one of the joys of ASL is the strategy of coaching. Kaleb calls it the chess of Roundnet. And this idea of like who plays who. And some squads took literally 20 to 30 minutes between rounds. And that made a huge delay. And if we go back and enforce or change that, we would have been a lot more on time on some things. We wanted to get that stuff where Josh being on the premier courts. We wanted that to be more just a little bit more and not so rushed or force people to kind of take short lunch breaks. It was kind of a mismanaged because it didn't go, the timing didn't go like we wanted it to. And that was kind of an unfortunate thing. And we also brought in the LED wall. That was a very expensive thing we brought in. We wanted to show a scoreboard. So Matt, going back to your question, what do we do differently this year? We try to make the premier finals bigger, better than it's ever been. We spent a ton to try to create an experience to show Roundnet that this can be a spectator sport, but also just a really enjoyable evening.
As far as that goes, I think the finals, definitely one of the most spectator-friendly finals I've ever seen in person. Being there with the LED wall, the stream looking back on it looks fantastic, professional. Seeing a whole ring of players around the finals net, the overtime net, it's electric. It's an experience that I think almost any Roundnet athlete can attest to being like, that's a cool experience seeing that happen. And going back to like the format and the software a little bit, going into the day one, pool play, as a player, it came out and it was very like new software. Okay, how does this work? We're getting into it. And it was very glitchy. It was slow. And like, I get it. There wasn't it wasn't good service in the area. And I bet this is the first time you're launching this software with this many people using it at once. But eventually you got it working to a point where it was like, okay, we can use this now. How did you get it from not usable in the beginning to, okay, we can use this now for the rest of the weekend? Well, what was that change? Because it was just like, for us playing on the lower field, we were like, oh, it works.
Before Kaleb tells you what we did, I just have to tell you, this is if anybody knows Kaleb and I, we are not trying to ruin people's days. We're not trying to ruin experiences. We're actually trying to make you have a really good experience. And we try really hard. We don't get nearly enough out of the time and energy we put in. And we just want everyone to have a really good time. But when that happened, Kaleb and I, we took so many precautions so this would not happen. You would not believe. And it happened. And Kaleb and I walked into the little boardroom by the bathrooms and we closed the door. We sat down and we looked at each other and we took big breaths. And then went to action. So then we went to work to try to solve, and we had contingencies. I'll let Kaleb explain what happened. But
well, yeah. So I mean, for those who don't know, the matching and pairing can be rather complicated. We've done it on paper the previous 2 years, and there's going to be errors if you do it on paper. Truly, I think that there was some things that happened in quarters last year where it was like, oh, I don't think they were allowed to do that, right? There's nothing that stops someone from placing incorrect pairs. So, but people like the paper; they're used to it. So as soon as that happened, Alex went and got the paper. I went to every single field and communicated, hey, it's not working. Everyone's like, oh, the internet's slow. And I knew in my head, I was like, it might be slow, but the real issue is this is the first time we've launched it with X amount of people on it. And but 20 minutes later, Alex was texting our software guy, and he's like, I think we just need more bandwidth. So we ended up spending some extra money to increase that bandwidth. And
he says, how much? I said, I don't care. Just turn it up.
Oh, yeah. He's like, it's going to be expensive. We don't care. Just do it.
Just do it.
So,
and it worked.
Yeah, that was something. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, going into like second half of day 1 and going into day 2, it definitely started working, and it was working better, and it was easier. It was definitely easier than the paper and pen that we did, where we had to run it over.
Thanks for saying that.
Last year.
It will be improved. We spend money every week on our programmer. It's been a work in process. This is our second rendition. We're on our second programmer. We're thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into it. I mean, it is. We just keep working on it, in fact, every day, and so it'll get better.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's so early on too. Like, again, this is not only is this like still a newer sport, but it's also like this is a brand new format, brand new app. You guys are like bringing a lot of brand news to it, so there's going to be problems. There's going to be hiccups. So
thank you for saying that. Yeah.
From a competitive standpoint, on the weekend, would you guys have anticipated that being the finals for the men, or the Open, I should say, like everyone else kind of did? And if not, how did you think that was going to play out?
It's always interesting, and I'll let Kevin answer this, but it's always interesting that when you do the seeding and you see it, and then you see what happens at the end, it's like, oh, good. Caleb and I always pride ourselves that if the top 4 can be what we put in the top 4, that's always a nice thing. I wasn't surprised. I think I thought that California and Texas, and there's a couple of dark horses. I thought maybe Raleigh could sneak in, but
yeah, I thought it'd be cool if Texas ended up there, but I really thought Lemon Lads was going to do it.
That's right, them too as well. Sorry, yeah, absolutely.
I was there observing on that overtime game, and I was definitely bummed, as a lot of players were, I think. So. That was my prediction.
Now we're not we saw, but that would have been.
Speaking of that semis overtime, is kind of some could say that if it was like the finals overtime, it would have been us in there. But who knows? Who knows?
It's very fair.
And just a quick address that quickly is.
Yeah.
We appreciate that everyone looked at our rules. We called a lot of people to try to innovate this overtime. We wanted to make it as balanced as possible, and we talked to a lot of people, and we got feedback, and we kept moving it. And we appreciate, because of time constraints, people always come behind. We just had that constraint, and so we ran it. If we go back and do it again, I think we'd change quite a bit when it came to overtime. So,
I personally think that the overtime worked really well for the first round of bracket, second round of bracket, and then at that point it needed to be done. And just because when you're at semis, it's cool. It's like, all right, this is really it. Whereas the first one, we can kind of get that, we can milk it for what it's worth, speeding things along. In fact, I did the overtime for, I think it was San Luis Obispo and the Boston Huskies, and that overtime was electric. It was awesome. It was close. It ended quickly. It moved things along. It was awesome. But then during the Lemon Lads, it was just like there was 1 point scored on one side, and it just was over, and it wasn't exciting at all. And it's like, oh. So yeah, definitely.
We discussed how long to make it. We wanted it short enough, but balanced enough. But we also wanted to make it fun, but also not. I mean, we already played 4 rounds. What if they all went to 20? We didn't have a hard cap in bracket, and so what if they'd all gone, or did we have hard? I think we had hard cap in semis.
We did, but people did other things, which is fine.
Okay. And that was new, by the way, this year. You talk about innovation. One thing, we've always had hard cap to 15, and then last year was hard cap to 15, cap to 7. No, hard cap 15, cap at 17 or 21. This year, we listened, we got a lot of feedback, and so we decided to go to 21 and give everybody hard cap 22 to kind of give everyone that full round-net experience they're used to. And so that was new this year. Also didn't know exactly how that was going to work on timing. So, but we wanted to try it.
How do you
How
think,
about go ahead, Matt.
Okay. No, Josh, you go, because I'm gonna do something else.
Yeah, how about let's not shine some light on the ladies, because their semis and their finals was awesome as well. Predictions wise, from the competitive side, did you think that California had enough top to bottom with their roster to sort of right the wrong from last year, or did you think that the team from Quebec would sort of overpower them and possibly repeat?
I think what happened last year with California losing to, I think it was Rochester.
It was Rochester.
Yep. It was the same squad last year. Was one of the. It was a huge upset. But California also had 8 women. It was a different roster, almost completely. Not completely. They had some of the same pieces, but they picked up Sarah Allen this year, as well as can't remember others. But it was like the comment that everyone was saying is like, who on this team isn't pro? Right? Like Shayna Burke, for example, who was their number 7, she technically qualified for pro with my wife, but they couldn't make it. So it's like they were deep all the way. I think Canada, you could have taken maybe some more games off them in the finals, but I think everyone just kind of knew that California was going to do it.
Yeah. As I talk to all these women players post tournament, I'll message and talk to as many as I can, and they're competitive. The Quebec women's squad may be one of the most competitive groups in all of Roundnet, period. And they're the first to register, the first to get everybody signed up, first to submit their registry. They are collected. They're on it. They're on it, and they enjoy the strategy and the opportunity to bring their whole team together. And I think I know others do as well. And I know California's come every 3 years in a row now, and so it's just kind of fun to come back and have a repeat champion. They're the first ones ever doing ASL. We're only 3 years into it, but first ones, and that's kind of a cool thing.
When after the finals with them, there wasn't really any observer issues the whole day on the main court from the stuff that we streamed. But the Quebec girls looked to be a little upset with some observing calls, and I just wanted to ask you guys if they came to you at all post the finals to sort of voice maybe their opinion or some things they had to say about it.
I was personally attached to that. I was running back on that finals game a lot, it's a it was as Alex said. I think the Quebec women were the French Canadians women's team was the most wanting to win squad out there that I saw.
Yeah, they were hungry, definitely.
Super hungry, and so with that comes just. Something doesn't go your way. And same thing happened for California as well, where you just disagree with what the observer said. So, and just by the way, going into it, there was disagreement about which observer should be in which stance, and I basically had to say it's going to be this because they couldn't agree. So that just started off kind of in that way where there was some there's definitely a lot of energy to win. So it's just tough when you disagree with someone and it doesn't go your way. So
I actually had the pleasure of observing that same squad matchup day before end of pool play. And when I was ready to observe, it was me, Tommy Drake, and Sam Corey. We're all sitting there and we're waiting for California. Almost seemed like they were putting a little bit of strategy into what observer they want on each net. Because they were like, oh, Matt, you go here. And then all of a sudden, a minute later, it's like, wait, Matt, you come actually observe this net. Tommy's going to do that net. And it was like, what the heck is going on? And then it was like, okay, what are we watching? And then California wanted one thing. Quebec wanted another thing. And it was just it was very strategic with the observers. I almost think they spent as much time with the observer strategy that they did answering their squad lineup. I thought that was very fun.
It's an interesting realm because, if California says, well, I want this, and someone else says, well, I don't want this person there. It's just this weird world where I don't think we've really tread before. People can, for one net, you can say, oh, I don't want this person or I do want this person. But when it's 3 nets and who goes where, I think we haven't had this amount of thought put into it. So I think we'll try to be more prepared for next year.
And we do try hard to focus. One of our biggest mistakes in year one was observers. Then year two, we tried to improve it. We got Rich Tarpey to come in and help us run it. And the challenge we have is that we go to an offsite location, and everybody who's pretty much certified there, the tournament is playing. And so we do focus heavily on the end of the brackets to make sure that we have the organization and the proper observers to finish off. But we'll get better at it. It'll take time, and I think as we work on this new Pro League project, then you're going to see the observing planning and grades and scoring and preparation for observers. It's going to take a front seat, and it's going to be exciting.
I also thought it was a little poetic to see Henry Pilliard playing against Etienne in the finals, whereas last year they butt heads a little bit after some observing stuff. So it's just kind of poetic.
That is poetic.
Yeah, it was great.
All right. So now let's dive into what the people want to hear. It's been in the talks for a little less than a year now, I'd say, when you guys first started introducing it and started hinting at it. So we got the Pro League, Pro Roundnet League. What are we thinking about that? If you guys can give us just a quick, a super quick 1 or 2 minute overview on what this Pro League encompasses and how it's different than just ASL.
Yeah, for those just kind of not to beat it, but for those who weren't there and who know, and now they're hearing through other people and through other social platforms. You know what I mean? Paint the picture for everybody.
Okay, you want me to take this?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the Pro League is a project of ours we've been working on. We've always wanted to do this. When Caleb and I first got together, we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could have a professional Roundnet league? And so we kept working on our little youth leagues and then the playoffs and league directors and doing these things and having leagues across the country. And when opportunity meets preparation and you're ready, then you can take advantage. And we were in a situation where with our brand and with our playoffs, we could, and our networking relationship, we built some trust. And so we thought, hey, it actually stems from a frustration. The sport's in a really good place. A lot of people have done a lot of things. I mean, USAR and Ben and Rohil and the crew, they've been amazing. They've done more for Roundnet than most people, if anybody really, and for the compensation they get out of it. Super grateful for them. And Skylar and Spikeball and a lot of these pioneers, you guys. And we're grateful. But there's some frustration, and it stems from attrition and a lack of legitimacy. And so the sport this is my own 2 cents. We talk about it internally. It gets kind of treated like a hobby. And so it's a fun hobby that has pro leagues and worlds and not pro leagues, but a pro division of the STS. And as long as we've got our focus and we've got these rungs on a ladder, or we call it the Roundnet roadmap, then we're interested and we're engaged. But as soon as a marriage or a job or it just we accomplish something and it's no longer intriguing anymore, we kind of peel off and we lose the focus, and it kind of shows its true colors. It was just a hobby. And so in order for us to get youth leagues going and get more players to commit, we needed a bigger Roundnet roadmap that was longer and more detailed and slower. And then we also needed more legitimacy. We needed I can't take one more kid's parent telling me they can't participate in Roundnet when it's absolutely their favorite sport. It's by far their favorite sport to play, and they're really good at it. But mom puts them in soccer camp or football camp, and they can't play as much as they want to because it's not a real sport, or we don't have the right leagues, we don't have the right infrastructure, and so that had to stop. We needed something to help us with retention and more legitimacy, and that is our reason for creating the Pro League, and we'll get more into details on it, was to create more legitimacy, not legitimacy. There's already legitimacy, more legitimacy, and there already is permanence, but more permanence, and so that we could help our communities grow.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, what is it? All it is, it's a regional interclub competition that ends with the playoffs. So the whole prep on day one of the playoffs, where it's all pool play, that is replaced with a short regular season starting in August, where you play within your region, your conference, against other city-based squads, and you have a schedule, and you have multiple tiers within your own club, and there's a lot of details that go into that. But just know from my perspective as the host for Boise Roundnet, the Boise Bandits, I host pickup every day for 3 years during the regular season. I miss maybe 2 or 3 days, a year, and I have all these players come through. I don't know what to put them in. I just don't know where they go. I get women that come and they'll come to some events, but there's just not this like strong pipeline and consistency. And this league is what's I believe personally, maybe I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid, is going to hold at least my area together in a way and get players excited to kind of progress in the Roundnet roadmap a lot faster, a lot better.
So to sum it up, it's almost like a start of clubs in Roundnet and these franchises that can like build their own little regional club and then compete against the areas around for year one at least, right?
Correct. Yep, exactly. So, we throw in a lot of like carrots and motivations from players to owners to everything in between that should allow everybody to be on this Roundnet roadmap somewhere and to progress. Because if you're not growing or progressing, you're dying and atrophying, and that's how we grow Roundnet, is through growth.
So you said regional. That was a big thing that stuck out to me because are you implying that you're not going to have to travel as much as a player? Or like, what does that mean? Like, how much travel is going to be expected from these players in their different conferences?
Right. It's a great question. The idea is that within a conference, there should be at least six clubs. And there's 3 match days during the regular season. So you have your regional rivalry, which there'll be 3 clubs in that area. It's divided into region, 3 clubs here, 3 clubs here, 6 clubs total. So you'll play your regional rivalry twice. So for example, for me and Alex, he's 4 hours away. So we'll travel either to each other or meet somewhere in the middle to meet up. And then there's one day, there's the all conference where we play the other side of the conference that we haven't played yet. And then based upon that, and that's Utah for us. So we'll go to Utah or wherever and play them. And then you do that 3 times. And then it plays into an all-conference championship where the results will determine your seeding and where you'll be in the playoffs.
So now where is this, like who's in charge of venues, who's in charge of travel, who's in charge of all this, the more details?
That's a great question. And a lot of details. I mean, we've been working on this project a long time and like heavily involved in it. And so there's a lot of details that are still going to come out as we want to give ourselves plenty of time to get ready. But let's talk about venues. So we have owners that they basically get to run the club, and their job is to find players, recruit players, develop players, and then they work what we call a conference commissioner. We have 12 commissioners all over Canada and the U.S. And they're great leaders, and they bought in. They supported this. They gave us lots of ideas, and they're awesome. And we're super grateful and blessed to have them. They're also owners of clubs. And every 2 years, we elect new commissioners based off of the owners inside of the conference. And so it's a 2-year assignment, and it's a paid assignment. You know, they're going to help us run the schedule and get players in the right spots at the right times. And so they're going to work with the owners to develop the schedule. And that's going to come out April 7th. So by April 1st, we're going to try to have all these clubs kind of figure out who's who, where's where. And then we're going to decide who wants to host. And we're going to try to host these in areas where we can have fans, we can have scoreboards, and they can. And then not everyone will host. We'll try to be very flexible to schedules, locations, who's where. Who, maybe someone hosts twice because it's the most logical place to meet up, and we want to make this. We want to make this. But Caleb and I have been doing this in Idaho for 3 or 4 years. Club v club battles. We've been doing it. We enjoy it. We love it. We want everybody else to experience what we've experienced. And so we're going to be flexible with it. But that answers that question. It's club owners will be responsible for hosting a match, and they'll find the venue and they'll get it all set up for the clubs to come visit.
So in one of these matches, right? In one of these matches, how many teams show up and compete for an individual club?
They could be any number. It's at least 2 squads per club. So people will see this on the website, but we have the Pro League, which is at the top.
4 divisions, yep.
And we have the Minor League, which is below them. And then we have the Challenger Division or the Farm League. And at the Pro, there's men's and women's.
Yeah.
But like, for example, my goal as an owner is to have representation in each of those areas. So I'm going to push as hard as I can to have a women's team, pro team, minor league, farm team. And I'm going to try to have 2 farm teams, just because I have a lot of intermediate players who like they'd sign up for an intermediate tournament, but they don't have necessarily the greatest time there. But they do have really fun at these squad tournaments. So that's kind of the goal there. And then if Alex or the other regional rivalry at the conference, wherever it may be, has those same players, they're going to play each other. If they don't, we'll figure out a way to work it out in a way that makes sense. But I think doing this is going to raise just the number of players that are active in a community. It's going to be
and it's called a match day, Josh. So a match day is a schedule. So we'll know before the season starts how many squads the club is going to bring to the table. If they're going to bring a men and a women's in the pro division, and their objectives. And so we'll plan a schedule, and you'll be assigned a certain time and a location. And who you're playing, you'll know, and at least for the pro divisions, that's kind of the anchor that holds this whole thing together. So every club needs to bring a pro men's. We are hoping that 80+% bring a pro women's, and then we can launch this. We're going to start somewhere. It's going to look different in year 1 than year 2, but the match day is where you know in April who you'll be playing and when you're playing and where. Venue might come a little bit later to get closer, but you'll know who you're playing and when.
So you said it's down to the club owners to where the team will play, right? You'll work with the club owners to figure out. They'll get the venue. They'll figure out where they'll play.
They get to host because they also get to take – they're going to have spectators, and you're going to make money, and you're going to charge for admittance. And so the host has an opportunity to make money around it. And, at the playoffs, we've been successful at having spectators and paid admission fee the last 2 years. And we did that more as a test to see if we could do it, if we could produce a product that fans would be willing to come pay for and see. And the best story we have is Chris Reuter, CEO of Spikeball, bought himself a ticket last year, and he paid, even though he paid for $10,000+ of support for the event in just our partnership, he still bought a ticket, which was really cool.
So then, is the venue? Will that be funded by you guys, or are you guys gonna then okay? Let's say I'm a club owner and I say, okay, this is where we're gonna do it. It'll be at this stadium or this sports complex in North Jersey. Do we tell you guys, and you guys will how does that get funded? Yeah. Where does that money come from?
Yeah, so obviously we'd love to play in these big arenas and turf and lights and it'd be great, and maybe hopefully we'll get there down the road. But we're gonna be practical and reasonable. It may be in a field with taped off chairs that people can just come in this, like what we did the playoffs, and they can watch it this way. And so there's only so much money that's available. And so the owners will work with us to make sure we can find them a good venue that can satisfy what we need, and there's going to be some support to make sure that we can get that done. Owners aren't going to be going into the negative to run the playoff, to run the pro league. So we're going to make sure that we work with them, and certain places might require more, and some people have different connections, and that's where the host owner gets the motivation, because they get to profit from after the spectators whatever they can keep. So we'll be working closely with each owner that hosts to make it a good environment, but they won't be going in the hole.
So speaking of, yeah, go ahead. No, Maddie, finish it off.
Lastly on this topic real quick. So you also mentioned that the idea is that an owner can profit off of a match day.
Yeah.
So how would, what's an example of an owner being able to profit off of one of these match days? How can, I bring a squad, how do I make money off of doing that instead of us just going and play?
Yeah, I know. For example, so everyone plays, participates in the pro league. And so you have a schedule, your players, you're playing the pro league. We've got all the incentives free to be there with schedules and standings and statistics we'll get into a little bit later. And so you want to be in the pro league, right? This is club v club. And then as the host, let's just say I'm hosting this weekend. Caleb's coming with the Bandits, and Bozeman's coming down, and they're all coming to my venue. I call the local school. I negotiate a good deal. I maybe teach P class and trade. I don't know. Maybe I give them 200 free tickets to come spectate a professional Roundnet match. I don't know. And then I'm going to sell the heck. I'm going to call the news station. I'm excited. This is exciting. I mean, we're going to have a match against Boise and Bozeman. They're coming out of Falls to play Roundnet competitively with these clubs coming in. This is big. This is exciting. Now, maybe you only get 50 to 100 people to come spectate. That's okay. They're paid $10 a piece. And so I have whatever my venue cost is, and anything after that, right? Now that becomes, that's for the host to kind of, there's motivation for a host club. And plus it grows their spectator base. It creates a fan, creates potential youth who can see this now and see what's going on. And then it's my motivation now to run, get involved with more of the youth, teaching P classes or hosting a youth league. And then that's kind of more than we want to say right now, but it all kind of works in this global, we want fans in stands. That's the third pillar of our mission statement is to create the fan.
So as we attack 2025 and our game that we all love, people say that the next best thing to do for everyone is to grow your communities. We lose our players, which you guys have touched on. We lose some of our high-level players, which hurts our top end, but doesn't necessarily impact the bottom end of new players coming into the game. What I like about what you guys are doing is it feels like you're attacking both ends. You're trying to influence younger players to be interested in this game that's sort of like it's like sexy on paper. Like you come, there's high level feel, there's people in stands, but it also has your and then afterwards we go back and we grind and we practice and we build to the next event. So it kind of helps your community in one way. And then the second step is how do we, for instance, we lost Matt Cole this year. He's got things he's got to do. How do we keep the players at the top end for and right now it's how do we pay them? Because if you're the five best players in the world at this game we love, you're not going to spend $10,000-$15,000 a year traveling around anymore once you get to a certain age with certain obligations and stuff. You just can't. So how does this league put together an infrastructure to where players are actually able to be paid? Is it building the stands and building the club that way? Is it fundraising? Is it people paying to just to be registration? What's the bottom line? How do we pay our best players through your format?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think the number one way is that this becomes legitimate enough that we have a year-long season sponsor. And I'm sure you guys have all heard about, everyone talks about sponsors. The only one that's, I think, in the sport successfully done it in a way that is meaningful in a financial respect is Spikeball. They've had a lot come through and show that money. And so obviously they're a manufacturer, so their business is maintaining and selling sets, whereas ours, one of the things we want to do and accomplish is pay those top players. And so if we can create a league that looks good and, like you said, is sexy enough that someone wants to be attached to us and throw some money our way to be our season sponsor, we're all in for that. And we're already talking to Skylar about this. This is kind of our end goal as far as paying the players. One final thing I want to touch on this is I had a long conversation with my buddy who's huge into lacrosse. The barrier to entry for lacrosse it's enormous. You got to buy the helmet. It's $200. You got to buy the gloves. It's $200. You got to buy this thing. It's X amount of dollars. It's huge. And then you look at Ultimate, and the barrier to entry for Ultimate is all you got to have is a disc, and you show up and you play, and that's it. And fingers, But one of them is, I'm just going to say, one of them is at least at the high school level and college level is significantly bigger, and it's lacrosse. Why? Well, it's because they have more support. They are sexier. The buy-in is higher. It doesn't feel like a rec league, right? When I show up to the Ultimate Frisbee games, most people don't even have jerseys. And so that's what we're trying to do. Not that we're going to put those high barrier of entries. It's just to say that despite those high barriers of entries in lacrosse, they were able to do that because they had that legitimacy, and hopefully we can bring that with this league.
And just to piggyback on that, I use this word a lot, the Roundnet roadmap. And we want to create this for everyone at every stage. And so this challenger division is the first touch point. Now you're in my club area, you come to a pickup and you're like, hey, this is kind of fun. It's like, well, do you want to play more competitively? Yeah. Okay, well, why don't you, let's just say it happens to be in June, July. They keep playing with us some more. It's like, end of July, end of August, we're going to have this, we're going to play some squad matches, essentially. We'd love for you to come with us, travel with us, be a part of it. Oh, it's really cheap. It's easy. You're going to be playing against the other club's intermediate beginner players. Great. And they imagine you coming around that you travel with the top players to Boise to go have a match day, and you get to go play your little match and get experience playing the ASL squad format. And then you get to go watch you two play, for example. That's kind of cool. And I get to associate with the Freeze. I'm part of the club. This is a really safe way to come. Now it's for them. The minor division is even the best. So the top 8 get to be committed right to a club, and they get to go play in the pro division. But what happens to the next 8? Well, they get to they get to play for the minor division club and then play in the minor division. Well, what's their incentive? The Roundnet roadmap. Well, they don't want to be in the minor division forever. And so how do we get to the pro? Well, it's no longer win a tournament STS Premier type thing. It's impress the club owner or objectively have better statistics or prove more consistent. And now they have this go from one squad to the next squad, from 7 to 1, and then eventually be in the Premier division, the pro division. Well, now you're in the pro division, Josh. Let's say you're our number 6. You're on the hot seat, man. So now you're more motivated to not get passed by the next up and coming because now they want your spot. And so now the club owner, I need to figure out who's who and where's where, because these guys are on their own Roundnet journey and they want to get on a better team. They want to make the top team. They want to get now eventually the pro division in the playoffs. You've seen money. We've had a lot of money come to the playoff. It's going to be even more in the future as we put more money aside from every registration, and we have bigger registration pools, and we get more title sponsors and more sponsors sponsor the pro division. And eventually, hopefully, we have to put fans in stands, and then maybe TV deals come. But eventually, the money will follow us as we're successful. And again, this could be 5-10 years down the road. I don't know. But when it does happen, then the money starts to follow. So we will commit so much money. We'll put as much money as we can, right? We'll give it. So there's money now for winning, but there's also money for and maybe I recruit you, Josh, to come play for my club, and I give you free registration. That's all I can afford personally. Hey, that's awesome. That's that. So there's a Roundnet map for everyone.
This year, 2025, in the Pro League, let's say the best player on the best team this year, and this is going to be an estimate, but this year, how much money will they make in 2025 playing in the Pro League, and they win the title?
If they win the title, we're hoping to put $40,000. Like we put about, let's see here, it was like what, 10 to 15,000 in the Premier Division right now for the money. I think we want to be able to double that for next year's champion. And so again, the challenge with squads and with this is that there's a lot of, you win a 2v2, it's fine, but you divide it by 2. And our challenge has always been you divide it by 7. And so we have to, that's why another reason why we're focused on fans, because we can get fans, we get more sponsors, and they care about player eyeballs. And so we can hopefully supplement money. So we hope to double it at the minimum for the winner of the pro championship.
And so the ASL playoffs, as we know it, so the 2025 ASL playoffs, that's turning into the Pro League playoffs and the Pro League championship. You have a fancy name for it yet, or is it just, what do you guys got?
It's the Pro League playoff.
The Pro League playoffs. So the Pro League playoffs, PLP, that is the championship, the Super Bowl, the Stanley Cup of Spikeball, Roundnet, whatever it may be. Speaking of Spikeball, though, what is Spikeball's role going to be in the Pro League? Like, do you have a connection with Chris? Because we saw Chris smiling real big next to you guys on that website. So what is his role in Pro League?
Well, just Chris has been with us since the beginning, since we approached him with this little youth thing that we wanted to do. And they've supported us in ways, as far as equipment goes, that we could never have done. And so and they do that. They've been doing that since, and so we've appreciated their help, and we're continuing to work with them. And as they step back from the STS, Chris's initial thought, and he said, if you were at the owners retreat, you've heard this, but he said, "Oh, it sounds like what they're doing with this pro league would be a potential competitor. I don't know if I want this to happen." But as they've kind of worked through, their place, their goal is simply to be a product sponsor. They just want to get their product out and it be attached to something that they're proud of. And so after working with them and building trust, we talk with Chris a lot, and we trust him and he trusts us. So that's kind of where that's at. On top of that, we're working with the owners, get special benefits as far as selling that equipment to make that easy. And just FYI, as far as there's a lot of words about, the Spikeball Titan set and when's this coming out and all that. We hope to use it for the Pro League, and those sets will not be a financial burden for the Pro League to play on them. This will be something that Chris and our partnership are working out to make it so that it can happen at that highest level. We love Spikeball.
So we can expect to see the Pro League be played on this new Titan set. Is that going to be with a bigger ball as well?
Correct. Yep.
And
they
then
have a new pro ball that's the size of the rally ball, and they've got a name for it. I don't want to spill it. It's a cool name, but.
And then other rules is that still in the works? Where like there's a lot of talk with the USAR, and the RRR.
Yeah, rules are great. It's a fun thing. We want to innovate, but we also want to not innovate too fast, too soon, too quick. And so we have our ideas of where we want the sport to head, but we want the community to help decide that as well. And so we do want to, again, our focus is for if a sport is more fun to watch, it should be more fun to play. And so if we can get a sport to be fun to watch unilaterally, and we can get scoreboards on the fields, the standings that matter, what your win-losses and statistics that help players rise up through objective rankings, then imagine what we can do, with rules. And so we're going to be very, we want to be innovative, almost progressive, but not so much more than the community is willing to tolerate at the time they're willing to tolerate. So we're grateful for the Roundnet rules revolution. We're grateful for USAR's new rules. We're grateful for their initiatives. We support them. And so you'll probably see a strong coalition coordination with their rules by the time August hits.
All right.
If an event takes place one of these match days and both clubs have like a ton of Premier Spike nets and tons, and that's all they really have rocked with, and they want to play on them for their match day, are you guys canceling the match day, or does that, can they play their games?
We lost cool. Alex.
Come on, that's perfect.
What the heck is this?
No, I'm here.
Like Chris is watching.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so
go ahead, turn off your camera, Alex.
Well, my camera's not working, so let me just
Alex said, I'm not going to answer this question. Caleb, you can take the blunt from Chris.
I guess the big thing is with Spikeball being our season partner, that's just kind of how it goes, right? We're all used to playing on the pro set, love, hate, or whatever. That's what that's literally what I've been playing on for 6 years. So the hope is that we do have the Titan set for as many matches as we can, and then outside of that, we'd have that pro set just for these match days. Now, if the community outside wants to run, this is for the 3-month season and for the playoffs. So they want to run Premier Spike. That's great. Alex and I, we have a really good relationship with Taylor Sanford, and we go and play in Premier Spike tournaments all the time, as often as we travel down to Utah. So it's one of those things that I don't think we're going to be lenient on, but I hope that people can understand with the partnership. That's kind of how it goes.
For sure. Now I want to give Alex a little second here before we move on.
I'm back. My camera is being silly. You can't see all my smiling face, but I'm here.
Okay. So if you want to keep trying to figure that out, you can. Obviously, if not, understandable. But I'm going to go ahead and ask this next question. So many past pro players have quit traveling and competing because their expectations was set way too high from a tournament series in a company, right? These tour series and these companies, and they're like, hey, keep playing and we're going to do this, 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 and this. And oftentimes they've come up short in the past. How is this league? How is the pro league going to be different? How are you guys going to be sustainable? How are you guys, like, what are the expectations for you guys to prevent that burnout from happening with past like the STS and that kind of stuff where people kind of like fall short of their promises? What can you do? What are your plans to do so that way that doesn't happen?
That's a great question. And I one we take very seriously. And this probably is more an attribute to my business experience. I've been in business for 30 years. It feels like probably 20, 25 years. And one of the constant is like, how do you acquire a customer and how do you retain a customer, right? These are the questions you ask yourself. And is something that, like, whether you hate what we do or you like what we do, we're only focused on player satisfaction. And if we can succeed in players wanting to come to our tournaments or coming to our things, then we win. And so we're focused on the player. We spent a ton of time and effort trying to create. We asked this question: how many clubs should be in the league? Well, the NBA has 32 or so. The NFL has 32, 34, and the NHL has 32, whatever. So we're like, okay, but Premier League has over 300. English soccer, English football, with the Premier League being the top. And so we just studied a lot of different sports, and our country is enormous. And so we said, okay, well, answer your question is we said we're going to have to dig deep, and we're going to have to create a league that has a lot of clubs who travel very short distances to compete in some type of a meaningful season that can play into this playoff event that we've already successfully ran. And so the reason why we have so many clubs is so we can grow the sport and give more players opportunities to play, but also to reduce the burnout of travel, and then to create more opportunities. And eventually, if we're successful over the next 3 or 4 years, we'll grow into more of this Premier League structure like you see in English football, where the top 20, 25 clubs just play each other. But again, we have to grow into that. And so it's onset. There's no win-win here. I mean, there's no dreamy situation, right? So these conferences only have 6 clubs. You play them, but you don't have to travel very far. And so we can at least get this off the ground. And then as we grow and have success, then hopefully that will shift and change as well. But that's why we have so many clubs. And that's how we're going to help solve the burnout, is to make sure players don't travel very far.
And then as a player or a club owner, the expenses that we can expect to pay would be mostly travel and registration fees.
Yep. Yeah, it's exactly. And a couple things to note on that. Registration, we've got kind of incentives to give owners to help offset some of the registration for certain players. We're going to give. We've also got really small registration fees. I mean, between $19 and $45 to play in the league on a month-to-month basis. I mean, it's really nothing crazy. And then the playoffs this year, every player and every team, whether they're in the men's, women, the premier, the pro divisions, the minor division, or the challenger division, everyone's invited to the playoffs. And the playoffs are going to be cheaper than they've ever been. We're gonna cut the costs on the playoffs, and we're gonna make it a lot. I mean, now imagine coming to the playoffs in the future when we've got these 4 different divisions and we've got every club participating across the region. I mean, we want to celebrate the sport, grow the sport, and we're gonna do that through a meaningful season. So,
now, is there any new news? So I didn't go to the dinner or with the owners and stuff like that, the owner retreat. Is there any new news? I did hear some stuff about it. I know you have some stuff at ASL as well. Is there any new news since that ASL retreat that you guys want to share as you kind of kick off this pro league announcement here?
Boy, I don't know if there is any new news. I think the biggest thing is since the owners retreat, for those that attended, the whole thing was sell a vision, create belief, and remove doubt. That's kind of our whole thing. With the sport, how small it is, there's not really any room for negativity. We just have to believe and push forward and lift where we stand. And so that's kind of what the only thing that changed potentially is just maybe Alex and I's take on, our expectations of what we expect people to do. We want to lower the barrier of entry. We don't want to control, really anything outside of just this small little league. So I don't know. Is there anything new that we've talked about, Alex, that we didn't announce at the owners retreat? I can't think of any.
Also, when we're done this, is there any way we could get the clip, your guys' hype video, to put into the podcast episode? Or is it like, copyright? What do you guys have on there?
Yeah, we could attach that, I think. At the very least, you will see it here in the next 2-3 days. It'll be blasted all over the Instagram. So we put a lot of work into that. Johannes over in Germany helped make that video for us. And hopefully it'll be a good intro. Some people saw it at the playoffs, but this will be a first for a lot of people seeing it over social media.
Definitely. So this podcast will drop on Friday the 21st. People would be listening to it. All your big announcements, when can people be expecting to hear more? Alex is back.
Alex is back. Okay, I don't know if you heard that question, but at the very latest, Monday. But things will be rolling out from Saturday throughout the weekend.
And where can people follow along? Just straight on your Instagram, or you know what I mean, like the website? Where do you want people to be?
Follow us on Instagram. So American Spikers League Instagram account. We're going to be posting there a lot, and we got some really cool other videos coming out. That'll be a great production. So definitely stay there, and we are super excited about all of this.
And Matt and I think Josh, you guys asked a question about kind of some. There's a couple updates that have happened since. I just want to talk about those, just two things briefly, and then you guys, I'm pretty sure we're pretty much out of time. But two things. One is three. Come to the website when it's all ready for you guys to see, and understand the relegation promotion. This is going to take effect at the end of year one. This is an exciting thing for clubs to start and rebuild and build and have motivation to not get relegated at the playoffs or promote. This is something USAR has adapted and which we love. And so just that's coming. English football, Premier League, they do this in England, and it's amazing. Second thing is, what is our relationship with USAR? We are so happy to support them. We are excited about participating in the regionals. Or the sections, I guess what they call them. Boise's hosting one, and we're excited. We hope to use their certification for all the observers to come in, and so we have officially observers, certified observers. We have plans and hopes to make sure what you play in the Pro League transfers over potentially to the ELO score, and the ELO score transfers over to the Pro League score. We have our own score system, our own statistics that are going to be weighted and win losses, and we want to use regular season stuff to kind of showcase that. And then so there's a lot of talks and discussion that we've got in the works, and I don't want to speak the finality yet because we're still working on it. And if we are able, and there's a desire, but we are excited to partner. We want to partner, and we have conversations to do that. And so we're excited about that. And so we're going to support them and just really hope they have the best season possible with what their new plans are. And then the last thing I'll say about this is the Pro League's not for everybody. One thing I'll say is we've made it so there's a home for everyone, but this may not be for you, and that's okay. It may not be you to be a club owner. It may not be you to be a player in the league. It may not be where you want it to be. If we had this 5 years ago, it would think about where we'd be. So we have to start somewhere. And the way I look at it is we have a home now for the top players to play and receive compensation of some sort. It'll be little at the beginning and more at the end as we grow, but it could be amazing for you. Regardless, if no top, and I think they will, by the way, we talked a lot, they're excited, but if no top player to come, imagine what will happen in 2 years if we just took 5.0, 4.5 players and this whole league was saturated with them as they grow into what happens next in the second, third, fourth year. Now, it's built for everyone, even the retired pro, to the very beginning player, but it may not be for everyone, and that's okay. You won't hurt our feelings. We're trying to make it as adaptable for everyone, but at the core, it's an inter-club league, a short season that plays in the playoffs.
It's exciting, man. It's exciting. There's a lot of cool things happening right now in the game with different communities and organizations putting together series, events. I wanted to sort of get your guys' knee-jerk reaction to two things. First off being the STS pulling back to be more of like production based and helping with fundraising and money, and then the second one being the Premier Spike, which you guys are close to. The Premier Spike sponsored like their tour, the Premier Tour. From what you guys know, what are your thoughts on STS pulling back and then the Premier Tour and what they have been working on?
I think with the Premier Tour, look, Alex and I, we just love sitting down and talking through ideas and what's going to work and what's not going to work. And we never know what will. And you can never know unless you do it. And so I think we both appreciate the initiative of the Premier PSTS or PTS, I think it is now, to do what they're doing. I think they're pushing the bar, which is awesome. And if we can make it, we'll come. So that's kind of our take on it. I think there was a lot of just like with any new launch of anything that's unknown, there's just a lot of questions that people have and doubt or whatever. And I think Alex and I, we just kind of look at it like, oh, you know what? We hope that's good. If it's big and it's good, it grows the sport. And so that's just kind of our take. I think so long as we're all trying to do our part to innovate, it's a beautiful thing. So that's kind of our take.
And when it comes to Spikeball and the tour series, it was a surprise to us, to be honest. That's not something that we knew that they were finale going to, if it's finality they're going to do. When we did know, when we knew, but it was definitely kind of like, oh wow, that's going to change things, right? But we're grateful that USAR kind of picked up the Premier thing. We're excited that I love their ELO score system. I'm just a huge fan of it. I just really am. I this idea of promotion relegation between things, I think it's what the sport needs. And then I'm excited for Spikeball too. The energy we're hearing from Spikeball is it's energetic. They're like talking to Chris, and we talk to Chris a lot, and there's energy, there's optimism, there's just a lot going on, and they've got good resources, and just look at Instagram right now, the type of content they're putting out there. They're kind of what people want them to do is they stay in their lane. They're staying in their lane, if you want to call it that. Although they're supporting and assisting us, the USAR, with the Pro League, and all the local organizations across the country and in the world. So I'm just impressed with their ability to navigate kind of a delicate situation because, they built the sport, honestly. So they have the right to run that until the day they die. Like literally, there's nobody should have, this is Alex's take, nobody should have a problem with the STS running their company's tour series. They built it. They financed it. They're welcome to continue that. The fact they pulled out is a sign of just humility and opportunity for the whole sport as a whole. It's impressive.
All right. So as we wrap up this episode, make sure everybody who listened, thank you for listening. Go check out American Spikers League on Instagram. They're going to have a lot coming out this weekend. Be on the lookout for that. I'm assuming maybe there's going to be a Pro League Instagram that'll launch soon as well. Is that something to look out for? Yep. So look out for that coming out soon. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Spike Lemonade Pod, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube. We'd love to see those subscriber count go up. Right now, I looked into the logistics of it. And can you guys guess how many listeners are actually subscribed? What percentage?
5%.
Not that low. It's not that low.
That'd be great. Not enough.
Not enough. So 40% of listeners are subscribers. 60% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel. Like, what? But you listen to all of us. You listen to them. So why don't you just press that button, ring the bell.
It helps a lot.
Yes, it will help us a lot. And again, go give these guys a good shout. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful rest of your week. And we will see you guys next week.